welcome to another Silverbird Selection game review, and you may have noticed that the introductory music for this episode is slightly different to normal. That's because today we're focusing on a game based on a film from 1985, one of my favourite films of all time, that is Back to the Future. Now this was originally released full price by Electric Dreams in 1986, then re-released in the Silver Range packaging in 1987. Not a game I've ever played before doing this review, so it's a bit of a new one to me despite being a big fan of the film itself. This is a fairly uncommon game to find out there, and it does command a little bit higher price than your average second-hand budget game. My copy cost me £5, and I think that's simply because it's related to the Back to the Future film, which is obviously very popular. So let's jump in the time machine, head back about 35 years and check out Back to the Future. As always, let's start by looking at the packaging then. As you can see, pretty nice artwork on this one. It is just a recreation of the poster from the movie, with the movie logo on as well, so no complaints about that. It's a very iconic image. It's got the typical Silver Range border around it and the Firebird logo at the bottom. Then on the spine we've got a slightly mashed together Back to the Future logo, and then on the back cover we've got a couple of screenshots as you'd expect, two very similar ones in fact, and for the blurb it just says "Get back to the future in this exciting race against time." So moving inside, we've got the usual list of games, which you can see is pretty comprehensive at this point, just confirming that this was released probably in 1987. Also the fact that the original game was released by Electric Dreams in 86 suggests it would be 87. You've got the mail order info and then the instructions. Back to the Future, copyright Universal City Studios Incorporated and Electric Dreams. And it says, "You're Marty McFly, a high school senior who's travelled back in time to 1955 in an amazing sports car time machine built by your friend Dr. Emmett Brown," or Doc. We knew all this already, didn't we? "Unfortunately, you've prevented your parents, now teenagers, from meeting, and unless you arrange for them to fall in love, you and your family will cease to exist." And we've got a load of instructions, game controls, a list of the characters, which you can see there is Marty, George, Lorraine, Biff and Doc Brown. Also some strategy about how to play the game. It says the more time that George and Lorraine spend together, the more they'll fall in love, and the more segments will be added to the family photograph. Various items you can pick up to help with that process. And then some information about skateboarding as well. And finally, at the very bottom there, it says when you've put history back right and have exposed the whole of the photograph, you must go to Doc's house to pick the time machine up. And when you leave the house, the time machine will appear and whisk you back to the future. So there you go. That's how to solve the game. Let's see if it's actually really that easy when we load it up. So here you can see the loading screen for the game. Pretty straightforward stuff. You've got the Back to the Future logo top left, a digitised picture of Marty looking at his watch on the right there, and then the credits there. The game from Electric Dreams, written by Martin Walker, game designed by Mark Ailes and Martin Walker, and a bit of copyright information in the bottom left there. Pretty nice loading screen. One of the better ones we've seen, although obviously this is from the Electric Dreams game rather than a specific Firebird one. So the game is loaded and you're presented with this rather boring looking introductory menu screen. But before we go into the game itself, which has now gone into a little rolling demo, just want to mention that at the end of this video I'll be starting a new method for choosing the games to play next, which will involve some viewer involvement again. So do stay tuned for the end of that, or if you don't want to watch this video to the end, then skip to the end so you can get involved in the game choice. So as you can see, there's a short scrolling demo of the gameplay with some music in the background, but let's get back to the title screen. And on the title screen, such that it is, there's no credits or anything like that. That was on the loading screen. There's a few options. F3 is the level, which bizarrely starts at level 4. Well, it doesn't give you very long to choose a level there. So yeah, it usually starts at level 4 when it loads the game. There are 5 levels, and you can see that that's changing the number of elements in the family photo at the bottom right there. We'll get on to what the meaning of that is in due course, but I'm going to start on level 1 because that's the easiest level. There's also an option to terminate the game there, pause and continue, and also start the game with F1, so let's do that and get on with it. So when the game starts, you're in Hill Valley in 1955. You're a very red looking Marty McFly, and there's a bunch of other characters walking around. So here you can see Lorraine Baines, your future mother, in a yellow dress. You've also got Biff in the brown there. He just walks around and punches you, and when he punches you, you're stuck on the ground for a few seconds. You can punch him back, but it doesn't work very often. In the crates there is a skateboard to pick up, which I'm going to do that in a moment because Biff can't hit you when you're on the skateboard. So there's a number of locations you can go in, which we'll get to in a minute when I pick this skateboard up. Well, apparently you're not supposed to be able to be hit when you're using the skateboard, but that didn't seem to work for me. Okay, so I'm on the skateboard now. So, different locations that you can go into from top to bottom. I don't think you can go in this thing. No. So you've got Doc's house, which clearly wasn't next to the school, but there you go. There's Doc's house. You can see some stuff like a clock, photographs, TV, and the radiation suit which Marty travelled in. We'll get back to that later. You've then got the school, and if you go in the school, there in the blue there is George McFly moping around in the library, so it seems. Move on, we've also got the hall, which is where the Enchantment Under the Sea dance took place, and there's guitars and drums and stuff there. And finally the coffee shop, which as you'd expect has got some coffee in it, a couple of tables, jukebox, things like that. So the idea of the game is you've got to get your mum and dad to meet and fall in love, and you do that by picking up a variety of objects that lie around in the different locations and using them to make the characters interact with each other. So the first thing I'm going to do, in the instructions it says Marty can't get knocked over by Biff when he's on the skateboard, but that doesn't seem to be true. So we're going to the school. The first thing is the icons at the top of the screen. They represent the different items that you can pick up. The icons at the bottom are the icons for the different characters you can interact with, and they light up when you're close to those characters. All those characters are interacting with each other. So now everyone's come into the school for some reason. You can see Doc Brown there. Should be noted that Doc Brown looks very much like his 1985 version rather than the 1955 version that you'd be expecting to see. But we'll let them off. So here you can see that there's an object lit up top left which is love letters. So you press fire and push up to pick that up. And the idea is that you use that to interact with the character, and from a bit of trial and error I found that you use it to interact with George, which I missed I think. Oh okay, I didn't manage to do it there, but so if I've now interacted that with Doc Brown it seems, which has just made him stop dead. So that didn't go very well. So let's go and get them again. You can see that Doc Brown's icon turned green there. One thing that I didn't mention is that Lorraine just follows you around like a lovesick puppy until you can get her to interact with George. So let's try that again. Actually they're both in the same place now, so if you pick up the guitar, what I found is the guitar makes them stand still. So if I use the guitar on Lorraine there, she's now standing still. You can see she's not following me anymore. So she is, got hit by Biff again. It's very annoying. She is static there, but now George is buggered off somewhere and I don't know where. So I need to go and get George and take him to the hall. There's only one bit of the family photo left, by the way, and when that runs out, it's game over. So I haven't got much time to try and get these two together. There's also a photo of Marty on the left hand side, and I've not really got any idea what goes on there, but this is about to be game over. And there we go, that was game over. Spent a bit too much time explaining what you had to do without doing it, and the future's ruined, the photo's disappeared, and Marty will cease to exist, so it's game over. Okay, so I've started the game again, and I'm going to pick up the love letter. The idea is you give the love letter to George and he follows you then. Each item seems to have the effect of making a character follow you, or making a character stand still, or making a character run away. I wish we could get Biff to run away because he's really annoying. You can see I'm trying to punch him, it just doesn't work. There we go. So now George will follow me. So if I take George to the coffee shop, for example, and then pick up the coffee and give George the coffee, he usually stands still, but that doesn't seem to work. Yeah, he's kind of stood still. And Lorraine's there as well. So if I can just get her to stay there as well and not follow me. Oh no, I've still got George following me. I'm not sure what went wrong there. Let's go to the hall instead. Okay, so pick up the guitar. Now George isn't following me, but Lorraine is. It's a bloody infuriating game this, I must admit. So I don't know where George has gone now, but Lorraine's following me. So let's... No, now she's given up as well. Oh my god. Okay, George is there, Lorraine's there. So let's give Lorraine... There we go, Lorraine's stuck there now. The guitar makes her stand still. Now I think that the radiation suit actually makes Biff run away, but he's just punched me again, so we're stuck. So what you'll notice is the music changes from time to time, and now at the moment it's playing The Power of Love, the famous Huey Lewis and the News song. That's when the McFlys, mum and dad, are actually interacting with each other and falling in love somewhat, I think. Whereas when the Johnny B. Good music is playing, which is not a very good rendition of it, that's when Lorraine's instead falling in love with Marty. So you've got to try and stop that happening, obviously. So you can see that one of the pictures on the photos actually come back again. Now you can see the music's changed because Lorraine's following me again. So we need to try and keep them together and keep me away from them, basically. So let's see if I can try and do that again. So I'm going to get the guitar again. And I haven't worked out any grand scheme there, but as you can see that one of the elements of the photo in the bottom right corner has disappeared again, and that's because Lorraine's spending too much time with me. So if I get Lorraine to come back in here, oh now George is gone. I mean it's basically just the whole game is just following two people around trying to get them to stand still as far as I can tell. So let's go into the school. Try and let's get hit by Biff. Let's try and hit Biff. No, missed him again. It's really annoying. So I'm just going to carry on trying to play it and get them to go together and talk a little bit about the graphics, which I don't think are too bad. There's very basic sort of chunky sprites, but the animation's quite nice on them. And with the exception of Marty, they've actually captured the mannerisms and the look of the characters quite well, I think, even though they are quite basic looking. Otherwise, the background graphics are pretty boring. Right, so I used the radiation suit on Biff and he's run off there. So that's one thing you can do. But now I've completely lost George. I don't know where he is, so I need to go and find him. And he's not there. There's only there he is. There's not too many locations, as you can probably see. So that makes things difficult as well. Or not difficult, actually, just boring. So now if we get Lorraine to come in here and get her to stand still. No, she's vanished now. Where is she? No, there she is. Come on Lorraine, follow me. No, she's gone again. Yeah, I don't know. Let's switch to the coffee. I'm positive the coffee makes George stand still. There we go. Okay, so George is standing still. Now I've just got to find Lorraine again. And I know that Lorraine will stand still with the guitar. Oh, and now Biff's punched me again. And by the way, during all this, what the hell does Doc Brown do? Because all he seems to do is wander around having no bearing on things whatsoever. So, can I find Lorraine and bring her to the coffee shop? Oh, he's punched me again. It's so annoying. Come on, get up. Right. So now Lorraine should follow me. There we go. Finally managed to get a punch on Biff. No, now she's turned around. Because I think every time she comes into contact with Biff, she turns around. So you've got to get Biff out of the equation as well. It's just, it's so convoluted and just like, but basically boring as well. It's like just repetitive trial and error going backwards and forwards, trying to get two people to stand in the same place. Sound wise, you've obviously got the two tunes you can hear. They're not particularly good in my opinion. The Power of Love one's quite recognisable, but it's just not a very good rendition of it, and they're very repetitive. Oh, now George has wandered off just as I was about to give him the coffee and get them to stand together. So I'm pretty much about to give up on this. I'm about to lose my last bit of the photo anyway. Yeah, sound-wise, what's strange is that the theme from the film is not actually in this game. So the theme that you heard on the opening of this video was actually from Back to the Future 2 game. I just thought it'd be fun to put that at the beginning of this since we were playing Back to the Future. But yeah, I mean, I'm about to lose this now. Lorraine's stuck there, but now I can't get George to go back to the sandwich shop. Now Lorraine's on the move again as well, and the whole thing just gets really tedious really quickly. And like, what was the developers of the game thinking, deciding to make it all based around this getting the two characters together and not including any of the sort of action sequences from the game? It's just really bizarre. Right, that should have got rid of Biff again. Now I don't know what's going on now. I've pretty much had enough of it already. I'm surprised how long it's lasting, but it is about to be game over again. There we go, it's game over. And I've well and truly had enough of that game. So yeah, let's move on to the scores straight away because I don't want to dwell on this any longer. Packaging, no arguments with the packaging, it's excellent. You've got the Back to the Future poster on the front, pretty detailed instructions, although some of them seem to be wrong when you actually play the game. Some of the things it said there aren't actually true, but overall I think the instructions and the packaging were really good. So I'm going to give that 9 out of 10. Presentation's pretty average, a nice loading screen, but the title screen, let's just remind ourselves about that, the menu screen. Oh, I've just started the game again now by mistake. But luckily I can press F5 to quit it, there we go. So yeah, the menu screen is pretty boring, and like pink text on a red background was a terrible idea. So overall the presentation pretty dull, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. Graphics are reasonable, as I said. I like the animation and the fact that they've managed to capture the sort of mannerisms of all the characters quite well, but otherwise they're a bit bland. The backgrounds are pretty boring and the interiors of the buildings as well. And yeah, I don't know why Doc Brown's his 1985 version rather than his 1955 version. So overall I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10 for the graphics. Sound, as I also said, is pretty repetitive, and they're not bad renditions of the two songs from the film, but they do get repetitive and there's no in-game sound effects either. So I'm going to go with 5 out of 10 for the sound. Playability, it's just really frustrating, tedious and a bit boring. I've already explained why I think that, so I'm not really going to go into it again. I'm going to give it 3 out of 10 for playability. I think ultimately it's just a really disappointing game and a disappointing use of the license. I mean, I can think of like 4 action sequences within the film Back to the Future that they could have made a pretty reasonable game out of. You've got Marty skateboarding to the school at the beginning. You've then got Marty trying to escape from the Libyan terrorists in a parking lot of the Twin Pines Mall and escape to the Back to the Future, or sorry, Back to the Past in the DeLorean. That would have made a pretty good driving sequence. You then got Marty trying to escape from Biff and his gang on the skateboard in 1955, and then finally you've got Marty trying to get back to the future by driving the DeLorean to connect with the lightning powered cord across the two pedestrian crossing things or whatever they were, the lampposts. And you could also incorporate Doc Brown trying to plug the cable back together and a few other bits and pieces. So it seems to me like they could have made a pretty good action game out of it, but instead they made this boring like action adventure type game with 5 items to pick up, 4 characters and 4 or 5 locations. That's just really boring. So with all that in mind and all the scores that I've just read out, it gives it a total score of 5.5, and I would say it's definitely not worth £1.99. So there we go, that's my review of Back to the Future. I'm going to put that back in the packaging and never play it again. That concludes another game review then, and you may recall that that was the last game chosen by my dog Brody, so now I need to come up with a new mechanism for choosing which game to play next. Now my next game review will be review number 50 in this series, and I've got a specific game in mind for that, so we're actually talking about the game after the next game review. And I'm going to go back to letting you guys vote for 2 possible games each time, but instead of picking 2 games in a particular theme, I'm actually just going to pick 2 games at random. So I've got 20 game names that I've chosen from what remains in this tin, which is a BB-8 style tin, by the way. And what I'm going to do is draw 2 names out at random, and then read you out the actual descriptions of the games as well for you to make an informed decision. And then we'll put it to the vote in the comments as always, as we did before with the previous iteration of this kind of game decision choice thing. And yeah, we'll see what comes out as best. But the other thing is, the game that loses will actually go back in the pot, but then if it's drawn out again and loses again, then it gets discarded. So eventually we'll run the list of available games to be picked at random down to the minimum number amount, I guess, or something like that. Haven't really thought it through completely. So let's pick a couple of games out and see what we get. So first out of the tin is Special Agent, and second is The Prince. So I'll just grab those two off the shelf, Special Agent and The Prince. So Special Agent, escape from the clutches of the Russian KGB, and The Prince is become the daring rich prince and rescue your princess from the Black Castle. So those are your two options, Special Agent or The Prince. Let me know in the comments which of these two games you'd like me to play, and I'll play it in the video after the next review video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.